so our second video is going to deal with chemical hazard education in the household. So essentially, in our houses, we find our most common chemicals in our garages, our backyards, and in our kitchens. So the first place we'll discuss is our garages. So essentially, our garages are pretty unsafe storage places for chemicals in general. Chemicals stored in garages tend to be forgotten about and left unattended for long periods of time. Chemicals stored in the garages are also temperature specific, especially with aerosol cans of paint, pressurized containers, and other things. They can be exposed to temperatures that vary with the seasons, and this can cause chemicals to corrode or break down. Also, small children and animals tend to play or have access in garages. These chemicals can make that dangerous. Two of the garage chemicals we're going to discuss include paint and antifreeze. Lead-based paint, for example, can be found in the garage. Essentially, you should store this in a cool, dry area away from sources of heat and combustible materials. If you happen to spill paint, you should clean up the spill immediately and place in a suitable container for disposal. You should always wear gloves and a mask and provide ventilation. Two of the symbols that go with lead-based paint include flammability and irritant for skin and lungs. Those will be found in the top right-hand corner. Antifreeze is another chemical most commonly found in garages. This chemical has 5 hazardous placards associated with it, including it's carcinogenous, it is an environmental hazard, it can be fatal upon ingestion, it is flammable, and it is a skin irritant. So essentially, we should always store this chemical away from heat and open flame, and it should be stored in the original container in a dry, cool, well-ventilated place. If antifreeze spills, you should provide ventilation and confine the spill, and never allow it to run off into the sewer, as animals sometimes think, oh, it's clear blue water, either one, and they drink it, and it is deathly for them too. The next place we're going to discuss is our kitchen. One common chemical found in the kitchens includes bleach. So bleach has 2 chemical hazard placards associated with it. One is a skin irritant and the second is an environmental hazard. These will both be found in the top right-hand corner. Essentially, you should store bleach in a light-resistant container, never ingesting it and never breathing it in. The product is corrosive to the skin and the lining of the nose, mouth, and throat. The thing that's important about bleach is you should never mix it with other cleaners, especially ammonia, toilet bowl cleaners, and drain cleaners. A fatal gas can be produced. In case of small spill, dilute with water and mop up or absorb with an inert dry material. In case of large spill, stop leak and call the fire department. The final place we will talk about chemicals is our backyard. One of the chemicals found we use when we're outside is insect repellent. Insect repellent is a kind of pesticide. A pesticide is a substance used for destroying insects or other organisms harmful to plants or animals. Pesticides are known as poisons. Insect repellent has 4 chemical hazardous placards associated with it. It can be fatal, it can be an environmental hazard, so we want to keep it away from food, drink, sewers, etc. It can be a carcinogen if ingested, and it can be a skin irritant, which is ironic because we spray it on our skin sometimes. This chemical can cause central nervous system depression, irritation of the skin, as well as loss of coordination if ingested. In case it comes into contact with your eyes, you should immediately flush eyes with water and monitor for at least 15 minutes. In case of inhalation, move to fresh air and seek medical attention if symptoms persist. Essentially, to ensure safe chemical storage, you should keep hazardous chemicals out of reach, from children and animals especially. You should place them in a cabinet or a shelf out of harm's way. You should always store chemicals in the original container with the original label if possible. Remove all sources of heat that are near chemical storage, and you should be pretty safe. So essentially, there are a couple agencies that we're going to talk about that monitor the production, regulation, and distribution of these chemicals. The first administration is the National Institute of Health, that is a biomedical research facility located in Maryland, and their goal is to improve the health of the nation by conducting and supporting research about diseases, human growth and development, and effects of environmental contaminants. The second institution we're going to talk about is the International Agency for Research on Cancer. So there are 4 groups that they group all of the chemicals we just discussed into, groups 1 to 4, from carcinogenic to probably not carcinogenic. These categories do have a wide range. However, it's interesting that each of the chemicals we have discussed today all fall in groups 1 to 3, so either carcinogenic or it just wasn't classifiable because there wasn't enough research. Not one of them falls in the probably not carcinogenic range. So in conclusion, this information is important because it's relevant in the workplace, in our education, and in any laboratory we find ourselves in. The investigation of chemical hazard communication, awareness, knowledge, and commitment to best practices is beneficial knowledge to have, because knowing about these chemicals, how to store them, handle them, and dispose of them will ensure the safety of ourselves and those around us.